Welcome back to our Facebook Live. We're about a half hour late, but you know what? I decided to sleep in this morning. Today we're going to talk about week 3 of Electrify All the Things. I got some fancy calculations here, and we're going to talk about what our heating selections were for our test setup, how much energy they use, and how much it actually cost. So the first thing we want to go over is our actual bill. Whenever I talk to you about a gas bill or an electric bill, I'm going to tell you to look at what your actual cost is. That includes all your taxes, your generation riders, etc., and then divide that by your usage. So our actual bill here was 110 CCF or 100 cubic foot of gas, and that cost us $142. So our average price for gas is $1.29 per CCF or therm. Our electricity rate is actually 15 cents per kilowatt hour, based on a total usage divided by our cost, including all of your taxes and riders. A lot of people are confused by your electric and gas bill. If you have questions about your gas or electric bill, the gas company and electric company are always happy to explain it to you, because you have the right as the home and or business owner to know what you're actually paying for. So let's talk about our furnace setup. The furnace, that one over there, is a 42,000 BTU model. I've actually got the specifications pulled up on the computer here, and this is a 2-stage model. So on high stage, it runs or produces 42,000 BTUs, and on low fire, it does 29,400. Now, it's important to note that our furnace also uses electricity. So we have a 1/2 horsepower blower motor, and that's fun to do looking at my phone screen and point to the computer screen. But we use a 1/2 horsepower blower, and Rheem's specification here indicates that this draws 373 watts. So when we actually look at our furnace calculations, we have a 1/2 horsepower blower motor that we need to account for. So remember, with a gas furnace, it's not just your gas, it's your electricity. So we have to look at this furnace as doing it's almost two different furnaces. So we have to look at our gas consumption on low and high, and then we also have to factor in our electricity. Now, I am always more than happy if you want to know what your furnace or heat pump actually costs. We can sit down and talk about your electric and gas bill, and I can go over these calculations with you. It's really not a big deal for me to do, and actually it's one of my favorite things to do, is pull out the calculator and talk to you about what applies to you. So we'll get off of my tangent here. So if I look at my actual gas usage on low and high, what I've done is convert between MBH, which is thousands of BTU per hour, to CCF, which is 100 cubic foot, because CCF or a therm is what you are billed on. So at $1.29 per CCF, it's not what you typically expect to see with the electric or with the gas company, because they'll tell you that the gas is like 75 cents a therm. Well, you factor in all your taxes and fees and stuff, and it actually costs more. So, and again, this is our gas and electric rates. Yours may not be the same, and that's okay. We can go through these calculations and use your numbers. So what we can see here is that on low stage, our gas component costs almost 38 cents per hour. So if that furnace runs on low speed for 1 hour, it's going to use almost 38 cents of gas. If I run it on high stage, it uses 54 cents of gas. And of course, we're breaking the bank with the 1/2 horsepower blower motor at 5.6 cents per hour. That's the thing that breaks the bank right there, folks. So if we add these up, our particular gas furnace for our garage setup here, for your comparison, is 44 cents per hour. on low. If we go to high, it's 60 cents an hour. Now, that's the second half of what we've done. We had the heat pump, and then we put the furnace in so that we could compare this for you. So let's talk about the heat pump. Heat pump systems are all electric. There's no gas involved. We do still have a 1/2 horsepower blower. And I should say the air handler that used to be there had a 1/2 horsepower blower motor as well. Now, I got this data from the heat pump manufacturer's data, which is right here. So you can see here that the actual kilowatt electricity consumption changes based on what the outdoor air temperature is. Now, most of the time when this heat pump is running, we're doing about 1.8 kilowatt hours. So that's a nice average. So that's the one that I picked. And since I can cheat a little bit, we have a home energy monitor, and it documents that the system always uses about 1,800 kilowatt hours. So I can cheat a little bit there. But we're looking at our actual electricity rate of 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So just the heat pump component costs 27 cents an hour. That's almost half the cost of the gas furnace per hour. Now, our electric strip heat that we had was 10 kilowatts. That's a whopping $1.50 for an hour of runtime. So, if we add in our blower motor for the air handler inside and our heat pump, it actually costs us 33 cents an hour. Now, anytime that auxiliary heat has to kick on, it's $1.83 an hour to run the heat pump, the blower inside, and the electric heat. This is why people who have heat pumps don't really like them, because anytime that the heat pump can't keep up, you have to bring on electric heat. So, if we look at this, our electric heat and the heat pump at $1.83 an hour costs just over 3 times the cost to run as a gas furnace. Now, everybody's going to freak out and say, oh my gosh, that's expensive. Well, remember, that's only when the electric heat kicks on. So your selection of heat pump is very important. Higher efficiency heat pumps can actually provide better heating at lower outdoor air temperatures. Now I'm going to bring up our garage heating load again. And as you can see here, when it's nice and warm out, we don't really need very much BTUs as far as heating. But as it gets colder, as our outdoor air temperature decreases, the amount of heat that we need increases. So when we take a look at our heating specification here, and I'm going to highlight this on the screen. There we go. So for our heat pump, our actual heating capability drops. So we rate heat pumps at two different temperatures. They're rated at 47 degrees outdoor air temperature and 17. So at 47 degrees outside air temperature, and hello, Tim. Glad you tuned in for this somewhat boring, maybe interesting episode, although you do have a heat pump, so you're probably paying attention. So with this heat pump here, it will bring in 23,000 BTUs. It's a 2-ton heat pump, so that's actually what it's rated at. Now at 17, we're bringing in 13,600 BTUs. So a standard efficiency heat pump will derate by about 50%. So when we go back to our load, at about 50 degrees, we need approximately 7,000 or 8,000 BTUs. So at 50 degrees, our heat pump is more than capable of heating. Now, as we drop off, you're going to see as our outdoor air temperature drops off, we're going to need more heat. So most of our heating occurred around 30 degrees. Let's see if I can bring this over. So we do about 17,000 BTUs. So our 17,000 BTUs lines up right about at 30 degrees. So our heat pump will pretty much run constantly. But anytime you drop below 30 degrees, you're going to have to bring on the all-expensive electric heat. So what we are looking at is, yes, the heat pump costs literally half the cost of the furnace per hour. But when we drop below 30 degrees, which is right about here, we're going to have to bring on electric heat. So you have the electric heat and the heat pump running. So now that's not saying that it's going to do this around the clock, but that heat pump is going to run quite a bit. Now, next week we'll actually go over our actual run times of the heat pump and the furnace. But your overall theory here is that the furnace does cost more per hour to run than a heat pump. Electric heat is always more expensive. I think the only thing that's more expensive than electric heat is if you're using heating oil. And that can be $2, $3, $4, or maybe even $5 or $6 per gallon to purchase. And most oil furnaces use about a gallon an hour. So that's very, very expensive. But also, this is only 10 kilowatts of electric heat. Most homes with electric heat have about 15,000 kilowatts of electric heat, so that cost is more. So when we look at all of this, your overall takeaway in comparing a gas furnace to a heat pump and electric heat is how much gas does it actually use, how big is the blower, and how much electricity does it use, and then what's the efficiency of your heat pump? Because it might use the same electricity. A more efficient heat pump might use the same electricity that this does, but it can produce a higher amount of BTUs. So a lot of things get factored into what's more efficient for you, and that's why we're doing this series. It's not fun like a lot of the videos you see, but it's the honest truth, and I think it's important that you understand, especially when everyone is saying electrify, electrify, electrify. Well, if you don't get a nice enough heat pump that's actually going to meet the load and you have to use electricity or electric resistance heat to heat, it's going to cause you a very, very high electric bill. But that also depends on your insulation. Because if you're in the garage like we are, we have a lot of leaks here, and you can't see it because the sun's not coming in, but we get a lot of air in here because it's a garage. We also have an uninsulated foundation wall. So whenever I have to use electric heat, it costs me a lot of money. So if we look at our summary here, I'll try to zoom in so you can actually see it on the video. But this is what we want to cover today. Now next week we will talk about our actual run times and our recommendation that is a combination of the best of both worlds of electrification and, I'll use the term, carbonization. If you have questions or comments, or even if you'd like to talk to us about what your current situation costs you, get in touch with us or, post a comment here. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great weekend.